The atmosphere's a bit tense. Keith Urban's friendly, charming, but he's wary. He knows what's coming. Of consistency in the changing world of entertainment. For years, fans have admired his voice, his and his signature style. But recently, something unexpected has begun to unfold. Something that has left even his most loyal followers stunned. Whispers have turned into headlines, and casual observations have become hot topics. What exactly is going on with Keith Urban? I wasn't raised like this at all, so our girls are very lucky to be learning from you, baby. I'm learning too. The man many thought they knew so well seems to be transforming before our very eyes. This transformation strikes many controversial questions and leaves fans asking for more answers. From new faces to country icon, Keith Urban's journey from a small-town boy in New Zealand to a global country music star is as inspiring as it is impressive. Born on October 26, 1977, in Whangarei, New Zealand, Keith Lionel Urban was raised in Australia, where his musical talents began to take root. From an early age, he showed signs of a natural performer, someone destined for the stage. His early passion for music, particularly country, set him apart in a region where the genre wasn't mainstream. This passion, however, would eventually catapult him onto the world stage. By 1983, a young Keith Urban made his first mark on the entertainment world by appearing on the Australian TV talent show New Faces. Though still in his teens, his charisma and guitar skills caught the attention of viewers and industry professionals alike. It was a small step, but a significant one, as it formally launched his early music career and fueled his ambition to take his talent further. In 1991, Urban made a life-changing decision. He moved to Nashville, Tennessee, the heartland of country music. The transition from Australia to the United States wasn't easy, but it proved essential for the growth of his career. In Nashville, he immersed himself in the local scene, refining his songwriting and forming connections that would later shape his success. It was a bold move that paid off. 8 years later, in 1999, Keith released his self-titled American debut album, Keith Urban. The album introduced him to U.S. audiences with a blend of country soul and rock flair, a sound that would become his trademark. One of the standout tracks, "But for the Grace of God," became a chart-topping hit, cementing his status as a rising star in country music. By 2001, Urban's talent was officially recognized when he won the Top New Male Vocalist Award at the Academy of Country Music Awards. It was an acknowledgement not just of his musical ability, but also of the determination and work he had put in since arriving in Nashville. His momentum only grew. In 2002, he released the album Golden Road, which featured major hits like Somebody Like You and You'll Think of Me. These songs expanded his fan base and showcased his ability to blend emotional depth with mainstream appeal. You'll Think of Me would later earn him his first Grammy Award in 2004 for Best Male Country Vocal Performance, a major milestone in any musician's career. In 2005, Urban continued to climb higher with the release of Be Here, an album that produced multiple hits and garnered several Country Music Association (CMA) and Academy of Country Music (ACM) awards. By this point, Keith Urban wasn't just a respected artist, he had become a household name within the genre. But 2006 would prove to be a life-changing year for Urban, not just professionally, but personally. On June 25, 2006, he married acclaimed actress Nicole Kidman in a ceremony held in Sydney, Australia. The marriage marked the union of two high-profile figures from different corners of the entertainment world and quickly became one of the most talked-about celebrity relationships. Their partnership would go on to be one of the most enduring in Hollywood, providing a sense of stability in both their lives. In 2008, Urban and Kidman welcomed their first daughter, Sunday Rose Kidman Urban, into the world. The birth marked a new chapter in Keith's life, balancing fatherhood with a demanding music career. 2 years later, in 2010, he released the album Get Closer, which reflected themes of love, family, and connection. That same year, Urban performed at numerous major award shows and benefit concerts, continuing to demonstrate his commitment to both his art and charitable causes. In 2011, the family expanded with the birth of their second daughter, Faith Margaret, who was born via surrogate. Urban has often spoken publicly about how fatherhood changed him, grounding him emotionally and helping him grow not only as a person, but also as a musician. From 2012 to 2016, Keith Urban took on a new role as a judge on American Idol. During his tenure, he brought a refreshing mix of humor, honesty, and insight, earning praise for his thoughtful critiques and genuine encouragement of young talent. It was a perfect match for his personality and allowed fans to see a different side of him, one that was nurturing and community-focused. In 2013, he returned to music with Fuse, an album that featured hits like Cop Car and We Were Us. The project showed Urban experimenting with new sounds while staying true to his roots. He continued to evolve musically while keeping his core fan base engaged. 2016 was another major year as Urban released Ripcord, which propelled him on a global tour. The album mixed country with elements of pop and electronic music, reflecting his desire to push creative boundaries. The tour was a commercial success and reaffirmed his place as a world-class performer. 2 years later, in 2018, he released Graffiti You, a deeply personal album that further explored themes of love, identity, and expression. That same year, he received the Entertainer of the Year award at the CMA Awards, one of the highest honors in country music. It was a testament to not just his talent, but his sustained impact on the industry. As the world faced the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, Keith Urban stepped up to host the Academy of Country Music ACM Awards, an event that had to adapt to new circumstances. His steady presence during the virtual format brought comfort and continuity to fans during uncertain times. From 2021 to 2023, Urban continued to innovate. He launched a Las Vegas residency drawing fans from around the globe to intimate shows filled with storytelling and musical excellence. At the same time, he stayed busy recording new material and adapting his performances to an ever-changing music landscape. Keith Urban's controversial lawsuit. Despite all of Keith Urban's professional achievements and personal milestones, his journey hasn't been without its share of unexpected challenges. One such moment unfolded in 2007, far from the world of music charts, concert tours, and award shows. That year, Urban became involved in a unique legal dispute that had little to do with music, but everything to do with identity in the growing landscape of the digital age. At the center of the controversy was a seemingly straightforward issue: the rights to the domain name KeithUrban.com. For many, it seemed obvious that a celebrity of Keith Urban's status would naturally own the rights to a website bearing his own name. However, the reality proved far more complicated, triggering a legal battle that drew attention not only because of who was involved, but because of the unusual situation itself. At the time, the domain name KeithUrban.com was not controlled by the Grammy-winning country singer, but by a painter based in New Jersey, who by coincidence was also named Keith Urban. The painter had been using the domain to showcase and sell his original artwork entirely unrelated to the music industry or the celebrity world. His website featured paintings, artistic commentary, and information about his studio. On the surface, there was no deliberate attempt to impersonate or capitalize on the musician's fame. Still, the overlap in names led to growing confusion as the singer's popularity skyrocketed. Fans, journalists, and industry professionals trying to access the country star's official website were frequently redirected to a page promoting artwork, not music. For a public figure managing an increasingly global brand, such misdirection posed a serious concern. As the confusion continued, it became clear that action needed to be taken. Keith Urban, the musician, decided to pursue legal recourse in order to claim the domain name. He filed a lawsuit in federal court asserting his rights under trademark law. His argument was based on the principle that his name, at least within the context of entertainment music and commercial branding, had become a recognized and protected trademark. The lawsuit alleged that the painter's use of KeithUrban.com infringed upon the musician's rights and created a misleading association that could damage or dilute his brand. According to court documents, the singer sought not only to stop the painter from using the domain, but also to transfer ownership of the site to himself. From the perspective of the painter, however, the situation appeared vastly different. He argued that he had registered the domain in good faith long before the musician had made any formal claim to it. He maintained that he was using the name legitimately to promote his own professional work and had no intent to confuse the public or profit from the singer's celebrity. In court filings and public statements, the painter emphasized that he too had a right to use his own name in commerce, especially since it was his legal identity and the foundation of his business. His defense highlighted broader concerns about the rights of individuals with shared names and the balance between trademark law and personal autonomy. Nicole Kidman, knocked down by paparazzi. The digital identity dispute Keith Urban faced in 2007 offered a glimpse into the kind of complex offstage challenges that come with celebrity life. But navigating legal rights over a name was just one piece of a broader picture. As Keith Urban's fame continued to rise alongside that of his wife actress Nicole Kidman, the couple found themselves increasingly exposed to another persistent pressure: the invasive world of paparazzi. While both Keith and Nicole have remained relatively private despite their high-profile careers, the scrutiny of their daily lives became harder to avoid, especially in public settings. During the 2010s, their encounters with the paparazzi, particularly in Nicole's native Australia, reached a new level of intensity that tested their patience and raised serious questions about boundaries, safety, and respect. Keith and Nicole's relationship has long attracted public interest. From the moment they married in 2006, the media's lens rarely strayed far from the couple. They were not only both celebrities in their own right, but represented a union between two global talents from different artistic worlds: music and film. While fans admired their love story and often rooted for their happiness, the couple also became prime targets for tabloids and gossip columns. Public fascination with their life together led to a near-constant hunger for photos and personal details, and this attention often extended far beyond red carpets and official events. Instead, it followed them through airports, private vacations, restaurant outings, and everyday errands, moments that most people take for granted, but which Keith and Nicole often found under an unforgiving spotlight. In cities like Sydney and Melbourne, where Nicole is deeply cherished and Keith is widely respected, their public appearances routinely drew crowds of paparazzi. The photographers eager to capture unguarded moments would sometimes go to extreme lengths to get their shots. The scenes could quickly become chaotic, dozens of lenses aimed at the couple, cameras flashing in rapid succession, and personal space often ignored. While some photographers maintained a respectful distance, others did not. Over time, the pair encountered a pattern of increasingly aggressive behavior from certain individuals who viewed boundaries as mere obstacles to the next exclusive image. These moments, ranging from verbal taunts to dangerously close confrontations, placed a significant emotional and psychological strain on both Keith and Nicole. What should have been simple moments like walking into a building or greeting a friend often became uncomfortable or even tense experiences. The most high-profile of these incidents occurred in 2013, and it didn't happen in Australia, but on the fast-paced, crowded streets of New York City. On this particular day, Nicole Kidman was walking toward her hotel, having just left a fashion event. The sidewalk was busy with pedestrians, onlookers, and as usual, paparazzi trailing behind to capture her exit. Among them was a bicycle-riding photographer who, reportedly in a rush to snap a photograph, sped toward her on the sidewalk rather than from a safe distance. In a shocking and unexpected moment, the paparazzo collided directly with Nicole, knocking her to the ground. She fell backward and briefly hit the pavement. Though she was not seriously injured, the incident was jarring and humiliating. A sudden physical reminder of how quickly the line between photography and danger can be crossed. For Nicole, the fall was both painful and unsettling, but for Keith Urban, who was not with her at the time, but heard about it soon after the incident struck a deeper nerve, it was no longer about camera flashes or gossip stories. It was about safety, the violation of space, and the unnecessary risk that comes with constant exposure. In the immediate aftermath, the story made headlines across major media outlets. The image of a world-renowned actress being knocked over by an overzealous photographer brought renewed scrutiny to the tactics used by some members of the paparazzi. The moment sparked conversations not only in entertainment circles, but in broader discussions about celebrity culture consent and the limits of public access. Keith, known for being thoughtful and composed, responded with concern and clarity. He publicly addressed the incident, expressing his dismay over what had happened and emphasizing the need for basic human respect, regardless of one's status. He didn't lash out or launch into angry tirades. Instead, his message was calm, focused, and grounded in the belief that safety and dignity should never be compromised for the sake of a photo. Keith's reaction resonated with many who saw in his words the voice of someone tired of seeing his loved ones turned into targets. For him, this wasn't about avoiding publicity. It was about drawing a line when attention becomes recklessness. Nicole's controversial intervention to Keith. The 2013 paparazzi incident involving Nicole Kidman may have revealed the external pressures that Keith Urban and his wife continue to face as high-profile figures, but there have also been deeply personal battles waged behind closed doors, battles that the public only learned about after the fact. Among the most significant and defining of those was a moment that took place much earlier in their marriage, just months after they had exchanged vows. In 2006, not long after what many thought was the beginning of a picture-perfect union, Nicole Kidman found herself confronting a harsh reality about the man she loved. Keith Urban had relapsed into substance abuse, and the situation was serious enough that she knew something had to be done quickly and decisively. At the time, Keith and Nicole were newlyweds just 4 months into their marriage. The wedding itself had been a widely celebrated event in Sydney, Australia, bringing together not only two celebrated artists, but also symbolizing a hopeful new chapter in both their lives. To the outside world, their relationship appeared radiant and full of promise. The country music star and the Oscar-winning actress had captivated fans with their story, two successful individuals who had found each other despite their vastly different backgrounds. They seemed like a power couple destined for happiness, balance, and longevity. But behind the public smiles, the glamorous events, and the loving interviews, a much more painful reality was unfolding, one that reminded them both that love, no matter how strong, sometimes has to confront difficult truths. Keith Urban had been candid in the past about his struggles with addiction, speaking openly about the toll it had taken on his life and career before he found sobriety. His honesty had earned him admiration, and for a time it appeared he had put that chapter behind him. But addiction is a lifelong battle, and in those early days of marriage, he quietly relapsed into old habits. It wasn't immediately visible to the public, and perhaps not even to those around him at first. But Nicole Kidman, attentive and deeply connected to her husband, sensed the changes. She recognized the signs and knew with painful certainty that the man she had just married was slipping into dangerous territory. Rather than wait for things to deteriorate further or hope that the relapse would pass on its own, Nicole made a decisive move. She staged an intervention. It was an act that required courage, clarity, and profound love. Staging an intervention is never simple, especially when emotions are raw and the risk of pushing someone away is high. but Nicole understood the gravity of the moment. Her concern wasn't just about saving their marriage, it was about saving Keith. She confronted the issue directly with the kind of calm resolve that suggested not judgment, but genuine care. It wasn't an ultimatum, it was a lifeline. Keith accepted the intervention and agreed to seek help. He checked into the Betty Ford Center, one of the most respected rehabilitation facilities in the United States, known for treating individuals struggling with substance abuse and addiction. It was a bold and commendable step one that required Keith to temporarily walk away from everything: his work, his commitments, and the public eye. It also meant stepping into vulnerability, opening himself up to a process that would demand honesty, accountability, and intense emotional labor. Keith ends interview about Nicole Kidman. The story of Nicole Kidman's bold intervention in 2006, just months into her marriage with Keith Urban, was a private crisis that showed the depth of her commitment and the transformative power of love and support. It was one of many moments that revealed how seriously both Keith and Nicole value boundaries, especially when it comes to protecting one another from personal or public harm. As their relationship evolved, so did their awareness of how invasive or inappropriate public attention could be. While they've both become more comfortable navigating fame over the years, there have still been moments when the line between curiosity and disrespect has been unmistakably crossed. One such moment occurred in a radio interview that quickly became uncomfortable and then ended abruptly after an intrusive question about Nicole Kidman's film roles caught Keith Urban off guard. The incident unfolded during what was expected to be a standard promotional appearance. Keith was on air with a radio host doing what many artists often do, speaking about his music current projects and personal reflections in a light conversational tone. But partway through the discussion, the mood shifted. The host, perhaps aiming for a moment of humor or controversy, asked Keith a question that hit a nerve: how he felt watching Nicole perform in romantic or intimate love scenes in her films. For most people, such a question would be considered awkward, at best invasive, at worst. But for someone like Keith, who is deeply respectful of his wife's career and also very protective of their private life, the remark wasn't just inappropriate, it crossed a personal line. Rather than brush it off with a joke or forced politeness, Keith Urban made a decision that spoke volumes. He abruptly ended the interview. His response wasn't explosive or angry. It was calm, clear, and final. The message was unmistakable. Certain topics were off limits, and he wasn't going to play along just to keep the conversation flowing. In doing so, Keith demonstrated the same kind of boundary setting that has defined much of his and Nicole's public life. For a couple who have weathered media storms and public scrutiny, the incident reinforced their shared stance. Their relationship is not for public entertainment, especially when it involves disrespect or unnecessary intrusion. To some, it may have seemed like an overreaction. After all, celebrities are often asked uncomfortable questions, and many choose to deflect or sidestep them with humor. But for Keith, the moment was about more than just an awkward question. It was about respect. It was about drawing a clear distinction between genuine interest and sensationalism, between curiosity and carelessness. His decision to cut the interview short was his way of asserting control in a situation that had veered into unacceptable territory. This wasn't the first time Keith had shown that kind of protectiveness, nor would it be the last. His relationship with Nicole has always included a strong element of mutual defense, standing up for each other when public commentary becomes inappropriate or invasive. While they've both remained gracious in the face of attention, they've also learned how to enforce boundaries when necessary. This approach isn't about being secretive or standoffish. It's about maintaining dignity both individually and as a couple. Keith's battle with addiction and his transformation. Keith Urban's music career has been accompanied by a darker, deeply personal struggle, an internal battle that has shaped much of his journey. During the late 1990s and early 2000s, Keith found himself caught in the grip of alcohol and cocaine addiction. His move to Nashville, coupled with early career pressures and a search for validation, pushed him into a dangerous cycle of substance use. In his own words, the back end of the 90s was a chaotic time, marked by binge drinking and drug use that left him emotionally and physically drained. He has since admitted that his drug of choice was cocaine, and his drinking often spiraled into dangerous territory. The lifestyle that came with his rising fame only added fuel to the fire. Keith's first serious step toward recovery came in 1998 when he voluntarily checked himself into a rehabilitation center in Nashville. At that point, the signs of addiction had become undeniable. He was aware that things were getting out of control, and he took that opportunity to seek help. But as is often the case with addiction, recovery wasn't a straight path. Although the 1998 rehab stint gave him a much-needed pause, it didn't fully resolve the deeper issues fueling his substance use. Over time, he drifted away from the program and eventually relapsed. The pressure of maintaining a successful music career didn't help. Keith was climbing the charts, earning awards, and building his fan base. But behind the scenes, his battle with addiction remained unresolved. By the time he married Nicole Kidman in 2006, many assumed he had put his struggles behind him. But just 4 months into their marriage, Keith relapsed again. The moment was a wake-up call for both him and Nicole. She recognized the seriousness of the situation and staged an intervention, an act of love and courage that became a pivotal turning point in their relationship. Keith later reflected on that moment with immense gratitude. He described Nicole's intervention not as an ultimatum, but as a lifeline. She had drawn a line out of love, not judgment, and he knew it was time to act. He once said he was very, very blessed to have had her step in when she did. This time he entered the Betty Ford Center in California, a place known for its effective, structured approach to recovery. He stayed there for several months, focusing on not just physical detox, but the emotional and psychological healing necessary for long-term sobriety. What followed was a slow, deliberate process of rebuilding. Keith returned from treatment with a new perspective. He wasn't just clean. He was clear about what needed to change in his life and how he would maintain his sobriety. He re-engaged with his support systems, including 12-step programs, therapy, and a personal commitment to stay grounded. This wasn't about salvaging a career or repairing an image. It was about reclaiming his life. He admitted that previous attempts at recovery hadn't stuck because he hadn't been fully ready. But now, with Nicole's support and his own resolve, he was finally able to make lasting changes. Keith's openness about his addiction has also become an important part of his public image. Not because he's trying to gain sympathy, but because he knows how many people are silently facing the same battle. He's spoken honestly in interviews about how addiction affected not only his health and career, but his ability to love and trust himself. There's no glamorizing it, just a plain-spoken acknowledgement that addiction is a disease, not a failure of character. And that message has resonated deeply with fans, many of whom see his journey as a reminder that recovery is not only possible, but worth every effort. Over the years, Keith's commitment to sobriety has remained strong. It's influenced his relationships, his music, and his sense of purpose. He's credited his wife for being a constant anchor, saying that she gave him a second chance at life. But he's also given himself credit where it's due. He made the decision to get clean, to stay clean, and to keep doing the work long after the headlines faded. That kind of consistency doesn't come easily, especially under the spotlight of fame. Keith Urban's transformation is turning heads not because of scandal, but because of how far he's come. He's continued to release chart-topping albums, perform to sold-out crowds, and serve as a mentor to aspiring musicians. But perhaps more importantly, he's done it all while remaining grounded in his recovery. He no longer hides from the past, nor does he let it define him. Instead, he uses it as a foundation proof of what he's overcome and what he still stands for.